So having got the land, it's now time to build a farm community, a community of enterprises. So we've got Kees with his stout micro dairy, the kefir and the milk. We've got Ellie's chickens with her chickens. We've got Kit and Ellie with their starter farm or starter market garden. We then will have Christopher and Mario with their no-dig, acres of no-dig. And there will also be agroforestry. The whole thing will be surrounded by agroforestry, which is growing vegetables in between rows of trees. We then, on that of course, we got the lovely bees of Christian, who got to build a bee observatory.
So one of the main tenants of Oakbrook Farm is Stroud Microdairy. We set up in about 2017. We have about 260 members. It's run on a community-supported agriculture model, and this means that people who drink and people who produce meet each other in the middle. And that's kind of what we're all about here today, is community buy-in to make something happen that wouldn't be possible otherwise. One of the examples that we have with Stroud Microdairy that community buy-in and community supported agriculture can achieve is the healing and restoration of soil. At the moment, it doesn't pay. It's very hard to measure, but it is very, very important. What we do here at Stroud Microdairy is we produce lots of lovely milk that brings in the money in order for us to kind of put some energy and healing back into land. And how better to do that with cows? They're basically just big fermentation vats on four legs to inoculate the soil as they move from A to B.
The purpose of this project is to simply allow bees to behave naturally without human intervention. The idea being not only for people to be observing and enjoying, but ideally that the colony will then swarm and spread into the environment. For us, the idea is to spread the swarms out onto the surrounding farmland, because bees these days are suffering many adversaries, primarily loss of habitat, pesticides, especially nicotinoids. Part of the holistic research and educational project is to show people that actually bees, if you're peaceful and calm yourself, they mimic the same action and they completely leave you alone. These are beautiful insects that we all depend on for our survival, pollinating. Every single vegetable we ever eat has been pollinated, and actually they just want to go about their business unfettered by human beings.
A no-dig agriculture is a very simple system whereby, as it says on the tin, we do not plough or dig the land at all. So it involves allowing the microstructures and nutrients of the soil to build up in an uninterrupted way, in the same way it would in a natural, say, a forest floor, where the carbon content of soil is much higher than it is in agricultural land. And the reason I became really interested in no-dig agriculture is that it provides quite a startling opportunity for carbon capture. For example, if all the agricultural land currently being used on the planet increased its carbon content by 0.4%, 75% of the planet's carbon emissions would be absorbed and sequestered back into the carbon soil, in the soil, which means that 0.4%, 4 parts in 1,000, is really achievable. It can be done, and we can show it can be done. In fact, here at Oak Brook, we are aiming to sequester far more carbon annually than that. So the project up here at Oak Brook is a pilot scheme where we were doing some controlled research around no dig and making that really efficient. But ultimately, the vision is for this to become a social enterprise where we bring together around 20 growers into a community, and this can be replicated up and down the country to serve local communities. And the third thread is a social one, which is to bring young people back in to growing vegetables and working on the land in agriculture, whereas of course the barrier to that currently is access to land. So we're providing the land for young people close to towns and cities specifically, as we are here, so that young people can really earn a viable livelihood in agriculture?
Well, Oak Brook is a new farm, and it's like any new farm, you need basic infrastructure. So tracks and barns for when you have a livestock farm, they're essential for a smooth operation of the farm. Tracks, especially in the winter, for getting the cows to and from the field. So what we're aiming to do is excavate the tracks out and then backfill with a hardcore base and put a top of dust on top. Really why we need them is it makes life so much easier for the farm, for the cattle, the livestock themselves to move around the farm, especially during winter. So the cows are really suffering because they're having to walk from the fields. You know, they're literally walking knee deep in mud, and it's not a nice experience for the cows. It's not a nice experience for the farmers. It's hard work. So yeah, it's fundamentally it's about the welfare of the cows. We try to look after them as best as we possibly can, and keeping them clean and keeping their spirits up, like our own, is an essential part of any healthy farming operation. We have about 22 head of livestock on the farm at the moment. So in the wintertime it's really important for livestock to come into the barn, especially in inclement weather. Barns are a key part of other aspects of the farm. Like we have a starter farm. It would be helpful for them to process their vegetables, pack them up, box them up. The milk processing. It's really a key element to any healthy farm.
So this is a project in its planning stages. The idea is to plant an orchard of apple trees, and the idea is that they will be in this field here, which is currently a temporary lay. It's quite exposed up here, it's quite flat, it's quite open to the prevailing wind. So the trees will act as a windbreak. They're going to be in rows between 20 and 25 metres apart, which is really wide spacing, but it means that there will be enough space that Case can harvest silage and hay here. We've factored in turning room for all the big machinery. And obviously this is a long-term project. I'm hoping that we're going to plant the trees next winter, and it'll then be 5 to 7 years before they're really cropping. So that works really well for me as a busy parent. I'm hoping that in 5 to 7 years time my kids might give me a little bit more time and space, and the trees and me and the kids will all fit together nicely. This is what you call agroforestry, which means integrating trees and other crops in the same piece of land. Here we'll have the fruit trees, we'll have the forage harvesting, we could have the chickens coming through, we could potentially have the cows grazing if we can figure out the fencing, and then I'm hoping that underneath the trees we'll have crops such as soft fruits, cut flowers, maybe herbs, maybe vegetables grown for seed.
So at the moment in agriculture it's about one job per 100 acres. What we're trying to do here at Oak Brook is kind of gather together a family of interdependent food and land-based enterprises, around about 12, giving maybe 14, 16 livelihoods on just 42 acres. How we're going to do that is borrowing templates and ideas from the tech industry, a hub. Basically, let's get infrastructure and resources that everybody needs to get started and have a good chance of being successful.